Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last session of 2 days of enchanting learning that we've had in the Future Skills Maritime organized by the Naval Connection. This is perhaps has been one of the largest global virtual conference and festival over the last 2 days. We've had maritime stalwarts coming and speaking to us, huge amount of viewership on our social platforms on Facebook. People have been watching live. We've been running a social media campaign on this in our LinkedIn and Twitter as well. And today we have a very, very pleasing and very immaculate personality from the corporate world and high on domain knowledge. We have Andy Cooper. Andy is the MD, Managing Director of GE Power. Andy, welcome to Future Skills Maritime, and thank you for your engagement. We would like to introduce, yes, we would like to introduce Andy, but before that, I would like a little bit of moment from you, Andy. Let us go live on Facebook. We are live now on Facebook, Andy, and the whole world will be now shortly seeing our video. And welcome once again to the Future Skills Maritime. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dear viewers, we have Andy Cooper, the Managing Director of GE Power UK. And to introduce Andy to the world and introduce Andy to a lot of Indians who are on this platform right now, can we play Andy Cooper's profile, please?
Andy Cooper, Managing Director, GE Power Conversion UK Limited. In addition to being the MD of GE Power, headquartered in Rugby, Andy is also the global marine leader for GE Power Conversion. He joined the GEC Electrical Projects Company in 1984 through an apprenticeship program. Upon completing a 4-year apprenticeship, Andy moved into project management, managing a series of large projects before moving into operations management. He has 25 years experience in the merchant, offshore and naval sectors of marine. The company was divested during Andy's career, becoming Segilac, then Alstom, then Converteam, and finally acquired by GE in 2012. Upon acquisition by GE, Andy led the global marine service business, achieving 100% growth over a 4-year period, opening up service offices in a number of new regions and widening the business scope. In 2018, Andy became the Operations Director for UK and APAC as Power Conversion reorganized into Regional P&L, and in November 2018 was promoted to Managing Director. In 2019, Andy also took over the Global Marine Leader role to become the figurehead for Marine in GE Power Conversion. The Naval Connection proudly presents Mr. Andy Cooper as keynote speaker at the FSM 2020.
Hello, Andy. Yes, you are much more than what she said. I think she's just said about at least 25% of what you actually are. So welcome and to the Future Skills Maritime. Thank you for partnering with us and deciding to speak. And over to you, Andy, for the next half an hour.
Thank you. Wow, what an introduction, and thank you, Captain Mukherjee, and to the Naval Connection for that wonderful introduction, for offering me the privilege to be the keynote speaker as we close, hopefully, what is the first of many of these virtual conferences. So, you know, as the introduction said, I've been around marine a long time. I've spent many years crawling through ships in shipyards around the world during the commissioning phase and taking them to sea and seeing them go into service in all manner of countries. What I'm going to try to do in this presentation is bring together some of the themes that have been talked about over the last couple of days and debated as part of the panel discussion. And I'm going to look at it through the lens of an industrial company like General Electric. So I'm really splitting my presentation into three parts. The first part will be to explain what we do in the maritime sector, to put some context around how GE is involved in it and an integral part of it. The second piece of the presentation will be focusing on in the future, and I know there's been a lot of talk about what the future looks like. And then the third piece is really looking at what does that mean to mariners, and going forwards, if mariners come away from that industry, then is within the industrial sector for mariners coming away from sea. So if we can go to the first page, please, in my presentation.
Yes, Andy, just give me a moment.
Okay. So what I'm going to show is what General Electric really do. Big company that dates back to the start of electricity at the end of the 19th century, founded by Thomas Edison, and involved in an awful lot of sectors over its history. Where it is today, it really has four main sectors. If we can just get the page.
Yeah, this is okay.
Up.
The slide is okay.
Yeah, no, go to the next one, please.
Go to the next one, please.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, well, on the left, you can see that it's a large company, over 200,000 employees. We're in 170 odd countries. And GE today is split into four main businesses. So we've got power, and the power conversion business I run sits within that power segment. We've got renewables, aviation, both commercial and military aviation, and also healthcare. If we think about power conversion where I am, then we're involved in a number of different segments. We're involved in the energy segment, metals, process line type technology, oil and gas, and then of course marine. And what we do is we design solutions using electricity and large electric components and automation, and we design and implement infrastructure type projects around the world. GE has a strong footing in India. India is a really important area for GE. In power conversion, it's where we've got our engineering development center in Chennai. We've got something like 300 engineers there, either designing or doing field service for the projects that we design. And then we've got one of two global research centers. One is in America, the other is in Bangalore, in India, and there are something like 1,000+ scientists there developing the future solutions for those four big segments that you see at the top of this page. So that's the context of GE as a company. If we just talk now about marine and power conversion and what we do in that segment. So, the way we think about it is when industries and militaries go to sea, then they need to take the electric power grid with them. So a ship is a power station at sea. All of the power is generated on that ship and managed on that ship. The sorts of ships that we do in power conversion tend to be those that have a high power requirement or a high energy requirement for whatever the process is that they're operating on that ship, and they can often work in harsh environments. So you can see some examples of the sorts of vessels that we have done. We've done many cruise liners, some of the largest cruise liners in the world. In the naval sector, we do both fully electric propulsion and hybrid electric propulsion on warships around the world, and we're market leader. Construction vessels, a growing area, is something that we get heavily involved with, and also all manner of types of offshore type vessels, whether it's drill ships, whether it's dive support vessels, specialist type vessels. And then also in the merchant or the transport space, now LNG has moved away from electric propulsion a few years ago more to two-stroke diesel. We still do some of the more complex ships, FSRUs, that need a lot of electrical processing power to manage the regasification. So the sort of scope that we would do varies from ship to ship. What we do is we design a bespoke solution. Every ship is different. We provide the generating power from the prime mover. So whether that's a diesel engine, whether it's a gas turbine, but we will provide the generating power, or we can provide the generating power, and then we'll feed that through the ship's power network. So we'll supply switchboards, for example, the transformers that reduce the voltage, feed other switchboards, the variable frequency drives that then power the motors that turn the propellers, whether that's the main propellers, whether that's the tunnel thrusters. And then we overlay that with a automation system so that the crew have this supervisory set of screens in the bridge, in the engine control room, and they're able to operate the ship from that automation system. Part of that is a power management system through software to make sure that as the power is demanded around the vessel, we do it in the right way and we don't black the ship out in the process. And then also dynamic positioning. So we can provide dynamic positioning that effectively uses signals from sensors, whether it's acoustics, whether it's GPS sensors or some sort of fixed target, that holds the ship stationary in a position so it's able to do its operation at sea. And then finally, and more important nowadays, is the remote connectivity, where we can connect remotely from shore to a ship, look over the shoulder of the crew to understand what problems they're having, help them with troubleshooting. We can download information, we can look into problems, and we can do our best to keep that operation running whilst we're getting somebody out to them or fixing it remotely. And we do that across a fleet of around about 1,500 ships. So what we provide really is the muscle, but also the cardiovascular system through the power network, but then the nervous system as well through the control and automation. So we have an intrinsic part to play in the marine industry. If we can go to the next page, please. What I'm now going to do is really share our thoughts of where we think the industry is going. So if you look at this page, it's split into 3 columns. So we've got the factors that are affecting the marine industry going forwards, how this is changing what the industry needs, and what skills will be needed to cope with these changes going forwards. So the first one that I'll talk about is, and big topic over the last couple of days, but IMO changing regulations leading up to the big milestone event in 2050. So what does this really mean to us all? Well, it means that we need to develop more energy efficient technologies. We need to find a way of producing less greenhouse gases with the way that we propel vessels and the energy that we use on those vessels. And all that's really leading to more R&D, looking at different technologies. A reciprocating engine is going to be the solution of the future for the ships that they're on today. We're going to see more fuel cells, and a fuel cell effectively being a battery that runs on fuel, and a number of different fuel types, ammonia being one. So that's going to bring lots of challenges for companies, for developers, for ship designers, and for ship owners to really try to work out what is the technology that they need on their ships in the future. 5 years, then really those decisions need to be made in the next 5 to 10 years to get the payback through the life of the vessel. So it's a real challenging time trying to work out, what are the technologies that are really needed that are going to support the very important IMO decarbonisation targets. The next change really is we've seen over past years more and more electrification of processes, less mechanical operations, less hydraulic operations, more operations fed from electric motors. So that increases the energy demand, not just in the commercial sector, also in the military sector, for example. That will all lead to increased power demands on ships. If we think about the naval sector, then the weapons of the future are more likely to be requiring high bursts of electricity. There's a move away from gunpowder, traditional weapons, to things like lasers, to railguns, maybe to electromagnetic armor, and also high power sensors like radars. So we're going to see more and more demand for energy on those ships, and that leads to a change in thinking. So much more thinking around how we manage that system, how we can have energy that is available for propulsion, but then we can divert it to another process, so that we are moving and managing that energy around the ship in the most efficient way, so that we're not overproducing energy and producing more greenhouse gases. And then the third thing is global economic pressures. We need to look at smarter ways to see more smarter solutions coming on ships through software. Software is going to become more and more important, whether that's virtual reality, augmented reality, machine learning, AI. All these are key technologies that will be implemented in the future to lower the operating costs of the vessel. When I say resources, I don't mean people. I'm talking about things like minerals. We've done a lot of mining. We're now seeing more minerals, more resources available below the sea. So over the coming years, a change and a new industry opening up around subsea mining. So the deep water drill ships of today and the challenges around the industry today, are we going to see similar type very complex vessels mining for minerals below the sea, but also new industries, and all this will lead to a change in industry knowledge. We'll see more responsible fishing through fish farm vessels and aquaculture, as well as mining. So new industries coming about through the way that we think about how we manage the resources on the planet. And then finally, again, something that's been touched on in the last couple of days is an aging workforce. Heavy engineering, heavy industry isn't as attractive to people today as it was in previous years. And so the industry needs to really think about what does that mean, and coupled with reducing operating costs, which inevitably leads to reduced manning, then also reduced manning helps to solve the aging workforce. And what that really means then is more remote operations, more support, more autonomy. But I think it's going to mean that the crews of the future need to become more multi-skilled. So they'll get better support through the systems on there, through the autonomy, through the AI type solutions, but they're going to need to be able to cover more bases on a ship. So if we can just go to the next page, please. What I'm going to do now is bring all this together into what does this really mean then for the mariners in this conference and those in the industry today. So if we just look to the left, you'll see the inverted triangle there. That what I've tried to capture is to summarize the main parts of the marine industry. So, we've got design consultants, classification societies, products and systems companies, equipment services companies, shipbuilders, ship owners, and then the whole infrastructure around that, around ports, logistics, and the end user industries that benefit from the goods, the services being moved around the world by shipping. And you can see that three of them with a GE logo in, that's where we're really operating. We're providing the solutions in that products and systems place for the industry. We're providing the services, but we also, through our other segments, the thing I would really like to emphasize, and I can't emphasize this enough, is that the experience gained at sea is so valuable to industrial companies like GE. And I would imagine mariners of this world don't really appreciate just how valuable that skill is. But sitting in industry and being part of marine, I can tell you that if we can bring people into our business that have that marine experience, it really does complement our company. We've got some great examples of that. So what I've done on the right is just lay out a few example career paths. So if we think about engineering and development, we're trying to work out what the next generation of our automation system should be, or our dynamic positioning system. We're trying to work out what does a ship look like in 30 years' time, and where we find a challenge is to get really good intelligence from the marine community. And if we can bring that intelligence in-house so that they're part of our engineering and development teams, then we stand a much better chance of developing our solutions through the eyes of the mariner. So, for example, the last time we developed the new range of dynamic positioning, we actually put a small team on a drill ship and we observed what happened on the bridge, and we observed what happened in the drilling station. And from that, we tried to build a system that was designed for the mariner. And if we can do that each time we develop things, then we and our competitors stand a much better chance of delivering a solution which is more relevant and intuitive to what the marine industry needs. And this also applies to engineering as well. As we're designing these bespoke solutions, if we've got the people with the marine experience, then they're better qualified to be able to design the power architectures for specific vessel operations that are best suited to those operations. So that's engineering and R&D. But then if we think about service, all our vessels that we provide solutions for need commissioning. Having commissioning engineers that are experienced at sea, again, similar to engineering, it helps to build that understanding. It helps to make sure that when we commission our systems, they're commissioned in the right way based on the way they're going to be operated at sea. And then behind that, general field service. So very similar to commissioning, but this is engineers going to vessels to do planned maintenance, to do unplanned maintenance, breakdowns, minor modifications for when. And then more sort of office-based, but offering technical support to ships in the field through our remote connectivity, looking over the shoulder of the crew, as I said earlier, and being able to help them through a problem, and not just help them through a problem with our technical solution, but help them through a problem with the marine experience that people have gained by being seafarers. And then the final couple of career paths that we see, and I'm sure there are many more, but if we think about the projects that we do, they need project managing, we've got a supply chain, and then when they go into service, we've got something called fleet managers, and we think of these as very similar to vessel superintendents. So this is somebody that is responsible for a customer or a number of customers, and therefore a fleet or a number of fleets of vessels. And we're they're the contact point between our company and the vessel superintendent of our customers. And their role is to make sure that anything that fleet needs, they get, to help them get organised for resolving obsolescence issues during planned maintenance, to get ready for dry docks, to support the ever-changing needs as new charters are taken on, basically anything. And some of the foreigners that are coming from service, because they know very clearly what those customers need. And that also applies to trainers. We've got, if I think of the best couple of examples of this in training around the world, our dynamic positioning training centres have benefited from us taking DPOs from sea and then reskilling them as trainers in the classroom. And they're not able to just teach people how to use our DP system. They're able to bring their marine experience into the classroom and help trainees develop textbook ways of doing certain operations. So that has definitely demonstrated great value for us. And then of course classification bodies. There's another area that seafarers could pursue, involved in inspections, FMEAs, and any sort of guide.
Andy, I think we've lost you.
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, you're back.
So probably we can suggest him to turn on to LD mode so that he can stay back without disconnection.
Sorry, Shoukat, I didn't quite hear you.
Mr. Andy, what you can do, you can try to change it to LD mode. At the bottom right, if you see, you have HD and a down arrow. Do you find that?
Yeah.
Can you switch it to LD so that at least you don't get disconnected because of the internet issue?
Okay.
Yeah, that's better. We have been losing you a little bit, but that's because of the high definition and low definition videos. Once you
really, I do apologise.
Don't worry.
Okay. Can I have another minute?
Please
can I have
continue.
another minute just to wrap up?
Please continue.
Okay. Okay. All right. So look, I know I'm overrunning, so I'll be really quick. I really hope that that the comments that I've made and the topics that I've covered complement the discussions that you've had over the last couple of days, and perhaps fill one or two gaps. Look, the drive to clean up the planet, it's going to lead to an revolution in technology, however we want to think about it. But certainly over the next decade or two, it's going to be really interesting to understand how the industry develops, and what solutions designers and owners really think are the best solutions for them going forwards, and also is the infrastructure there to support that? So, you know, fuel cells, for example, if fuel cells are running off ammonia, is the ammonia production going to be there to support that? What I would say is, look, let's all remember, you know, sea trade is the oldest, it's the most resilient form of transport, and you know, the industry is going to go through some change, clearly through technology, but it's an industry that is very robust and clearly here to stay. Whatever the future, I can't emphasize enough, the skills that people are learning at sea are so valuable to industrial companies like GE. And so, you know, if you are thinking of a move away from the sea, then the opportunities are there. That's really all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening. Really pleased to be asked to wrap up the conference this year. So, Shoukat, I'll hand back over to you. Thank you.
Wow, Andy, thank you very much for thank you very much for completing right on time, and thanks for the insights. You know, when you talk about GE, such a big conglomerate and such a big organization such as GE, 30 minutes is not enough at all, and I know that. But so apologize for giving you only 30 minutes, but you know, we've been talking a lot on all kind of skill development and future of work. But it's great to know a couple of things. Some questions have come in from the audience, and I'll ask you those questions as well. And a couple of things crossed my mind when I was hearing you. In awe, actually, 1,500 ships, and imagine the infrastructure that GE must be having, and the kind of investment that you're doing for training people all across the genres in 1,500 ships. You talked about aging workforce, and there I wanted to ask you if you could just slightly clarify. You know, there has always been a dichotomy and lot of fight between people saying that we need fresh faces, fresh minds, and the new guys are more technologically advanced, they're smarter. But you also have a lot of very old guys, senior level guys who are really needed in the industry to put in that balance, to bring in that balance. So what exactly is the balance? Are we really looking at taking senior people off, or what is the cutoff margin? What is the age? Because I really do feel that they bring in a very lot of experience into the work. Andy?
I think it's a similar challenge to what engineering companies face and have faced over the past few years. And is it still an attractive industry to go into? And so, you know, I think the challenge for the marine sector is recruiting people into it, but then keeping them into it. And I think it's a challenge that we do have this aging workforce, and we need to make sure that the knowledge that they've got does get passed down to the next generation, but recognise that the next generation, you know, the volume of people going to sea perhaps isn't going to be the volume of people that saw this as an attractive career in the past. And so that, you know, I think that's the challenge that we face. And as you say, you know, it's keeping the right balance of keeping that experience at sea, but also where there are opportunities, bringing it into industry to help accelerate the future solutions for the marine industry.
Yes, Andy, thank you very much for the answer. And something that I think this has been brought forward by Mr. Abdul Ghani Sarang, who's there. He's written a question. In fact, I had the same question in a different way. And I'm going to also ask his question as well as mine, and maybe join too. My question was, you know, the experience, you talked about the experience gained at sea being very valuable for GE. And since you, as the head of GE, are speaking, so I assume there is a lot of other companies too as well, so who identify themselves and who realize the potential of a seafarer having these fantastic qualities and experience and skills, and which being detrimental and which being useful for them ashore. Saying this, do you advertise for seafarers? Do you look for seafarers to fill up your shore-based job? How are you recruiting people for your shore-based job? Do you go for seafarers who are having these skills? This is one question. And then putting a question to from Abdul Ghani Sarang, and he said something on the similar lines. Career opportunities for ex-mariners are mainly for officers only. What should the ratings do then? I mean, is it only for officers, or even are you looking for ratings as well? Just he says in his own kind of special tone, he says, "Are the ratings just going to dream about coming ashore without any opportunity?"
Okay, all right. It is we do recruit, and we will target straightforward. It is in certain areas of the world. In others, it's a challenge because of location. So I sit in Rugby in the centre of England. We don't have a great deal of water around us, and so it may not be an attractive place for people to relocate. Other areas of the world, absolutely, it's the right place to be. So where it's relevant, and obviously not all roles suit ex-mariners, but where those roles are relevant, then we're ideally recruiting for people that come out of the industry. And we've got many examples of doing that, whether it's people out of the Navy or absolutely, you have to do that. When we talk about is it for officers, the skills have got to be relevant for what we're trying to do. We're an electrical engineering company, so engineers, electricians, dynamic positioning officers, and also if you think about vessel superintendents that may have been at sea that then still continue to work for that owner but they're land-based, vessel superintendents can be very useful because they can help us with that fleet management role that I talked about. But it really is a case of it's got to be the right skills for the roles that we have.
Yep, Andy, thank you very much. And Mr. Ajay Chatterjee was here, and he still is, I think. And he's a big authority, of course, retired now, but very big authority. He was a part of the Director General of Shipping's office for many years, and Chief Surveyor also. And he's put in a question. He's asked. Well, he's a chief engineer background, of course, and he's asked, what is the status of methanol and biofuel engines for marine sector at GE?
Okay, I'd have to go and check on what the answer would be for that. I mean, GE doesn't make diesel engines. Used to make diesel engines, divested the business. But I think as an industry in itself, clearly diesel makers are looking at what are the fuels of the future and what are the operating costs that go along with that. Okay,
Andy. I think, is there any other questions now I'll put to the audience? Is there any other questions now that I can put to Andy before we end this session? Yeah, there is one more question from Cal. I think you know Cal very well. Yes, he said, you still have ports and warehouse parts roles? Are you still in the ports and warehouse roles? I have no idea what it means, actually. Cal,
sorry, you broke up just at the right point. So would you?
Cal has written a question to you. Of course, I don't know this question. He means something specific. Maybe he asks, you still have ports and warehouse roles?
We provide solutions for ports and logistics. If the question was roles, then no, that's not what we do. But we provide a lot of electrical solutions for ports and question was about roles. Was it about roles?
Yeah, I don't know. And then he's gone on to write that companies need to plan ahead for organic training from a young age and then train them for ratings, he said. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think what Abdul Ghani Sarang meant was that you're talking about specialized roles. And if you're talking about career transition at very specialized roles, then only officers would be able to live up to those roles. I mean, not the ratings. So that's I think.
Not the ratings, no. I appreciate that, but I wouldn't just say officers either. It's a broad range of technical skills that exist on ships today.
Okay. Andy, I have taken much of your time, and it's been a long 2 days, and keeping our commitment to ending and starting in time, starting and ending in time, we have come to the end of FSM 2020 with your session, and I wouldn't want to go to another session and give the vote of thanks. I would like to take this opportunity to complete my vote of thanks here as well. First of all, I would like to thank you, Andy. I know how busy you are, and thanks to Sarah also from your office. She's been very, very supportive. Thanks to your office staff, and thanks to your full team for giving us time and liaising with us at every point, at every end. And I do know how difficult sometimes it is for taking out time for these presentations, but we do want the students and the global seafarers to hear from marine experts and from experts and people sitting at the top on how things are. Sometimes people who are starting off their careers don't know what it is at the top and what people are looking at, and speeches from you and MDs and especially people who are in power would give a lot of inspiration and motivation to new people who are joining sea, not only in sea, diverse companies, maybe electrical companies, power, as well as offshore and oil and gas. So your speech was a very, very good motivation for all these people and seafarers, and I'm sure it's just the beginning of bigger things to come, Andy. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope some of the stuff that I've talked through has been found useful by.
Yes, Andy, we're going to run your presentation as well in our event souvenir, which is going to come out, and you'll get a copy. It's an audiovisual souvenir, so I will ask your office to send me a few videos of your companies as well, and we'll run that in our audiovisual souvenir, which will be going out in our social platforms. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, professionals, maritimers, seafarers, and all the associations who've supported us, this is the time when we have to say goodbye. It's been 2 days. We started off on 27th early morning, and we are finishing on 28th. People from all corners of the world joined us in Facebook Live, and more than 30 countries had registered for this program, and we are very grateful to all the associations. First of all, we are grateful to our sponsors, and we would like to name them in order. We are grateful to HSBC. We are thankful for their support and engagement, and this Future Skills Maritime was conducted in association with HSBC Mariners Account. Thank you, Ocean Technologies. Thank you, RAL, and for HSBC, thank you, Ruhi and team. Thank you, Group M, for partnering with us. Thank you, Ocean Technologies, RAL, and team. Thank you, Juret. ARI, thanks to the full team. Gaurav, Naomi Ruvari, of course, she was a panelist. Captain Bhatia, thank you so much for your engagement and supporting the FSM. We have also got a few other people to thank, and as we speak of all the people who've helped us in order to and supported us in order to bring this event to you. Thank you, Director General of Shipping, Shri Amitabh Kumar, who had decided to inaugurate the FSM, but at the last moment had to consider and honor his commitment to the ministry. He had to go for a meeting, but thanks to Captain Pasi, who came and declared the FSM open. Thank you, Catherine Nielsen, Captain Bilal Ahmed, Ral Harris, David Handel, Captain Rajesh Tandon, Dr. Malini Shankar, Adam Lewis, Andy Cooper, Dr. Sanjay Bhavnani, Mr. Manish Pradhan, Gillian Carson, Pradeep Chawla, Captain Pradeep Chawla, Mr. Deepak Shetty, Mr. Abdul Ghani Sarang, Mr. Uday Purohit, Captain Sankalp Shukla, Mr. Elmer Pulumbarit, thank you, Naomi Riwari, thank you, Captain Rakesh Bhatia, Mr. Shabasati Hazra, Sonali Banerjee, Ian Robinson, thank you, Dorothy, Zek, thank you, Devochadi Mohanty, thank you, Sanjam Gupta, Ruben Robinson, Ruben Romero, Mr. Amar Singh Thakur, Reshma Nilofer, Captain Prabhat Nigam, Mr. Ishwar Achanta, Captain Mahesh Yadav, Mr. David Birwadkar, Captain Shiv Halbe, Captain Pradeep, Captain Vinod Naveen, Captain Radhika Menon was supposed to speak at this event. She could not get down from the ship, and she was India's first ever lady captain. Thank you, Kal Kukaria, for all your support, back-end support that you've given me. Thanks to all our sponsors and supporters, without whose help we definitely would not have been able to bring this event. We thank Best Marine, Mr. Amin. thank you, Nautical Institute. Gillian and Vinod Naveen was really helpful. Nautical Institute spread the words of our event to their whole members and promoted our event. Thank you, Anglo Eastern, Manish Pradhan, and Captain Narang, who was there at Anglo Eastern at that time. Thanks to the team of Ocean Technologies, like I said, Manish Singh, Ral, and team. And thank you, FOSMA, and for their support. Thank you, MASA, BSM, Bernard Schulte, ARI, IMI, International Maritime Institute, Mariners Training Guild, Benedict. Thank you, IRS. Thank you, Chitkara. And then thank you, Marlu Navigation. Thanks to Marix and for me, our media partners. So this is what we have done with all the support from all these people. And this is time to say goodbye to all of you. We'll come back next year much bigger, and we will start off work much earlier so we can get more and more people into this event and bring the event live again to the world. So from the Future Skills Maritime, I apologize if I missed out anybody's particular names who've supported us. There's been a lot of people working behind. Last of all, I would like to thank our team and who's really put in a lot of effort last 4 months. And I'm really thankful to our team, Sudha, Sagar. Thank you, and thank you for staying by our side and putting up this show. Thank you very much. And from all of us, Andy, if you, with your permission and with the permission of everybody else who are there, we would like to end the session today and end FSM 2020 with a big applause to all our sponsors. And thank you. And we will see you next year very soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and don't go out. Maintain social distancing as much as possible. Stay safe, right? It's Captain Shoukat Mukherjee from the Naval Connection saying goodbye. Can we end this session, please, now?
All right, can I end the session, sir?
Yes, please.